Hey, welcome. Just setting up. I think I'll just work on a comic page for the... No, I could work on something else. Maybe one of the newer characters. Speaking of whom, let's do this. Cover up. You just grab. Oops. Do. Let's do that for fun. Do properties. Oh. Would probably help if I click save. Kind of settled on her design pretty recently, but like I always had her like I've always wanted her to be like some kind of reptile character, but at the same time I didn't want to like constantly have like, oh, all these there's so many reptile characters, so I wanted to mix her. And at one point she was going to be a part dog, but then settled on mouse. So sometimes the plan changes. Yeah, don't. There we go. Yeah, I should probably change the background too, just so it's not the same thing. Da da da. Let's use this cover. Might have to tweak it. Hold on, let me open up this window so I can see it better. There we go. I'll just keep it this way for now. I'll have to make a custom background for streams or reorganize how I have this set up. Thank you. But yeah, I've been sitting on Nadine for a little bit. Like, I've had the idea of the character, I just hadn't settled on her final look until now. Because a lot of the times I end up, like, having the concept of a character already done in my head, like the story and everything. But then I'll constantly want to change their designs because I'm trying not to like be over repetitive with character choices or design choices, where it's like, oh, this one's a reptile, or this one's a dragon, or this one's a cat, or a dog, or a bird. Trying to like change it up either by mixing character species or using a species that I haven't really focused on, like an octopus or something. That's why I tried to keep all of the cream-filled characters different as far as I could. Like when I made apple cider, originally when I first made her, she was just gonna be a fox, and that was like the end of it. But then after a while, and looking at how I had Plum, I was like, as much as I want to keep her as just a fox, I need to change it up. So I made her a fox centaur, just so there was a little bit more. So she had like a little bit more different design from Plum. So mostly just to change it up, because I don't like repeating too many things too quickly. Like, I don't mind having like multiple species of a character, because obviously that's going to happen, but I don't want to like show them too quickly. Like, I've had other cat characters, but because Marcy was, you know, still fairly new, I didn't want to just spam them immediately. So yeah, there's like a lot of rotations of characters that I have and just sitting on, because it's like, well, this character just showed up, so I don't want to show another character in that species so soon. Like, I almost changed Janet's design because of Andy, because they looked a little similar, and they kind of look similar to Nadine too, but I just kind of went like, it's gonna happen. Sometimes I'll change it. Most of the time I should probably just leave it alone and just stick with the original idea. Almost forgot her leg over here. So just doing this real quick. But yeah, I try to mix it up as much as I can. But then I'm also, you know, trying to stick with whatever storyline that I have, that sometimes their species is necessary. Like, oh, it has to be a cat or a dog or a mouse or whatever. And then other times it's like, I can mix it up. I can change it, because their species isn't always necessary. But in like characters like Joanne's case, like obviously she has to be designed the way she's designed, because that's literally the point of her story. Is that because of her particular species or subtype, whatever the hell you want to call it, she gets treated the way she's treated. Yeah. Like, I need to change up the faces a little bit more, especially with characters that are much older. So I just need to keep that in mind, and then make a conscious effort to change it. But I also have to keep in mind that it's just kind of the way I draw, so not to dread too much on it, but still attempt to change it. Okay, did that. And then I'm trying to like get out of my own headspace where I keep um, focusing too much on, because most of the time when I'm like drawing a rendered pic, like the recent drawing I did of Emerald for the new cover for I Had Two, like I was sitting on that picture constantly wondering, oh, should I change this, should I change this, or should I shade it a little bit differently, and changing up different techniques to see if it would look nicer in a certain way. And I gotta stop doing that, because I'm always stuck in my own head going like, oh, it's not perfect, or oh, it's not 100% the way I was trying to get it to look. And it's mostly just me constantly comparing myself to other artists, and I need to stop doing that. And it's not a bad thing to still practice and try to learn different techniques and get better, but I need to stop feeling like the picture isn't good enough or something like that. Just stop critiquing myself too hard or too harshly, and just kind of let it happen when it happens. So it's a personal problem. I gotta stop thinking of it in that fashion. Because it's not gonna do me any good to constantly think that the stuff I'm drawing isn't good, or isn't 100% the way I want it to look, at least. It's like, no, it doesn't look like this style, so it's shit. Like, I need to stop doing that. Yeah, that's true. Same goes for, an artist is their own worst critic. Or creator, however you want to frame it. But yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, let me refresh my memory on how this is supposed to be framed. Does that, uses him, does it again. Okay. Yeah, I figure I'd work on this for a bit. Either I can, well, there's going to be a certain point where I have to change up what I'm drawing because I gotta make another card art. And then Kiwi's comic is getting close to ending. Like, I know this was a lot longer than Apricot's, but that was mostly because of the whole card game stuff. Because I gotta explain it. But I'll try to take from what I've learned from doing this, so if I ever do another card game based comic, I'll try to not spend too much time on explaining what's going on with certain explanations of cards and stuff like that, and just trudge through, and or at the very least, if I'm going to explain it, just try to do it in less panels. That's the hard part of doing a card game comic, is that you gotta explain enough so that way it's not confusing people on, oh, how did this work? Yeah, like looking at how Yu-Gi-Oh does their manga is like, yeah, there's at least 3 chapters worth of stuff going on in Yu-Gi-Oh. And then there's also like, story related stuff going on. I'm trying to remember if they did story in between the card game stuff or if it was just full on card game stuff and then story. I think it kind of depended on what part of the duels that were going on. Like with Yugi and Merrick, obviously you had the good side of Merrick dealing with stuff outside of the game with his sister. But then, you have situations like Yugi going up against Slifer, but then you have Joey being stalked by the Rare Hunters, or by the ghouls, whichever names you want to go by. So, it's just one of those balancing acts where you gotta figure out where you're gonna put what. Believe in the heart of the cards. Funny thing is, I don't think, if I remember correctly, I don't think the heart of the cards was even a thing in the Japanese version of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that was just something the Western version added in. Like, obviously, Yugi had faith and stuff like that, but, like, it wasn't, like, a constant, saying for him or anything. It was just, no, he's got to believe in himself, or, not stress so much over whether or not he's going to succeed. And this was way before the whole Atem had the ability. Well, he always had this ability, but he wasn't like aware of it until the end of the series, where he could manipulate probability. Because they even explained that in his final duel, where it's like, oh, how is he able to get that card? It's like, oh, he can manipulate probability. So he's not cheating, but he's like bending reality to the point where he's going to draw the cards he wants when they're necessary. So like the cards he puts in his deck exist, but where they are is him manipulating probability. So technically he's cheating, but it's not like a type of cheating you can actually prove. It's just more like he was always fated to get the cards that he wanted at a specific time. It probably was in the first volume, but I'm not sure if that was just a translation thing or if it was in the actual like Japanese dialogue. But, I mean, I don't know. It's been forever since I've read those comics, so I'll have to go back and find out if I wanted to know. But I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not like it takes away or anything from the story. I only have issues when they change something that's vital to a story. Especially when it comes to animation. Like censorship stuff. So, like, I hate it when it's like, oh, this character is supposed to be using a gun, and then they change it to, like, a slingshot or a water gun or a gun with a hammer attached to it. That was a thing in One Piece. I think One Piece had like one of the worst censorships I've ever seen. Like, I remember, and I think this was when 4Kids still had it. It was like, I forget who the character was. I mean, this was like ages ago. It was like one character who was like a foster mother, or like a mother for like orphans or something like that. And in the original version, she was supposed to die, I believe. But in the censored version, she was like framed to be kidnapped, but like they kept reusing scenes of her in like the like it would show her being taken away, then her screaming, but then cut to like the children calling for her, but then it would cut back to her being physically next to them even though she was already being taken away. So it's like they didn't know how to frame her not being around anymore. Because there's like no way for them to like explain, oh, this character is actually dead. So I don't know. Like I hate censorship. Like I understand why they do it, because they're trying to make animes or mangas or stories, whatever, more for kids, because you know they make more money from kids. But at the same time, it's like, look, kids aren't entirely stupid. Just let them enjoy the material as it is, and if it's something that's for them, they'll get into it. If not, they'll leave and maybe come back later. Like there's plenty of stuff that I've read that it was either above my age range or just barely at, that was still like mature. And you know, because that's the idea, like if you're gonna make cartoons and stuff like that, obviously you're gonna make it for kids, but you want to put in enough adult material that if an adult is having to sit down there or sit down with the kid and watch it with them, there's something for them to enjoy too. Like that's always been the case. At least for me, when I was growing up with cartoons, like there was always something adult in the material. Love Hana was fun. I never got to finish it though, so I need to either buy the rest of the series if I can find it, or read up or find it online and read up on it. Because I have the first 3 or 4 volumes. If I look at my shelf. I think I have 4. I can see the first 3, but I can't remember if I got volume 4 or not. And then after reading the manga series of Bakuman, like reading Bakuman was interesting because that manga explains how the manga industry does things, like how comics get continued or popular and stuff like that, or you know how they are in their like personal voting tiers to see, you know, how popular they are with audience and stuff like that. And after reading that series, anytime now that I read like a newer comic or a newer manga and see certain moments of it change, it kind of just like I just keep being reminded of Bakuman, of how sometimes editors will get in the way of like changing a story, or how an idea gets pushed and it just changes the whole dynamic of what the comic was known for. So it's really interesting. Like I believe, was it Inukami? I think it was. It was a story. I think it was Inukami. It was a story about this fox girl, and she would talk about how her father was, you know, this dark entity, and you know, if he ever got released from his imprisonment, then he was just gonna, like, you know, try to kill all the humans and stuff like that. And in the beginning of the series, because this was a very short-lived series, because in the beginning she kept dreading about, you know, what would happen if her father got released and stuff like that. And he kept showing that, oh, the seal was slowly breaking, slowly breaking. And then, because the comic didn't do well, it just cut to, like, towards the end, it just cuts to, oh, she's going at, like, an annual ceremony where she puts the seal back on her father, and then that's the end of it. Like, nothing happens. And I was like, and, like, the moment I read that part, I immediately thought of Bakuman. I was like, oh, the comic didn't do well, so they had to cut it short. So now I just have it in my mind knowing that if certain mangas like go from like one type of writing and then suddenly the writing shifts over to just something really bland, or quickly resolves a certain plot that they were building up, then you can tell that the comic just wasn't doing well, and they either were going to cancel it, or they're shifting the story to something that the editors or whoever thought would be more interesting. So that's why anytime I see stuff like that happen in comics or anime now, that's my first thought. Yeah. Black God was fun. I enjoyed that one. But yeah, like, cause I forget her name. It was in she was in Naruto, where she was supposed to be like another character that Orochimaru put the curse seal on, and they kept building her up for like the longest time, all the way up until the war arc, where all the deceased ninjas were being reborn with the reanimation jutsu, and then all of a sudden she's just no longer important. It's like they kept her around for so freaking long, and they kept building up, oh, she's part of Orochimaru's thing, she has the curse seal, blah 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 blah, and then just straight up no longer needed to use her. They just tossed her, and then I think when they showed her in Boruto, she's just like, okay, she's kind of like Choji now, where she's building up the whole getting fat thing, or whatever the hell that's supposed to be. I'm assuming that's where they went with her, because I kind of fell out of it after a while. But yeah, I was like, because like for the longest time when Naruto first started, I was sitting there going like, oh, I wonder what they're gonna do with this character, because this is interesting, and they never do anything with her, and it was such a letdown, at least for me, because I'm like, I like seeing like these hidden type of arcs being put together, and then for it to just fall and become nothing was just like, And after reading Bakuman, it just made me think about it more and more, going like, man, I wonder what the story was going to be with that character, because that happens a lot. Same thing for Bleach. There was like quite a well, I think there was only one character. It was one of Ichigo's friends, the tomboyish one. I'm horrible with names, but like she was shown to be like, oh, she can see spirits just like Ichigo and stuff like that. Oh, it looked like they were gonna build her up to help out Ichigo, or at least have some form of importance, and then she just falls to the wayside. It's like, no, we already got Chad and Orihime and stuff like that, and I'm just like, I think their name's Orihime. I don't know. I'm probably getting character names wrong. Yeah, exactly. The chick with the purple hair in Naruto. It's like they built her up so much in the beginning of the series, and how she kept having ties to Orochimaru, and then just nothing comes of it, or at least nothing really significant comes from it. I think what they did was just like remove the curse seal, and maybe like a fraction of Orochimaru was in there or some shit like that. I don't know. I can't remember anymore, because it was just such like a nothing moment for her to have so much build up, and then nothing happens. And it's just sad, because you knew there was going to be something there, and then it just got stripped away, or possibly her story plot got given to another character or something. And then when you look at what the character is now compared to where the character was in the beginning, you're just sitting there going like, man, I wonder what the what if scenario would have been. Because that happens in Beastars too, where you can tell this was an idea that the creator did not want to do, where it's like, oh, let's make the series more actiony, so they were adding in the whole Chimera thing, where it was basically going to be like JoJo, where characters had personas or stands or whatever, and then that was immediately dropped. Like, I think that lasted, like, maybe 3 or 4 chapters, and then it was just, like, not a thing. Because that wasn't really what Beastars was being popular for. It was being popular for, like, you know, characters trying to deal with their social norms and stuff like that. And then it was just becoming not that. Yeah, that was a weird time. Like, the moment it was like, oh, what is this? Is this JoJo? I mean, don't get me wrong, 9 was fucking cool. Like, she was a great character that got introduced during that arc. Because her whole deal was just like, oh, you can't fight women? Okay, let's fix that. And she just straight up goes like, this is what a boob is, and just has Legoshi start touching her and stuff like that. And he's just like, what the hell? Like, that was funny. Like, trying to get Legoshi out of his comfort zone. And she's all like, oh, you like rabbits? Okay, this should be easier. And so she's like, just pretend I'm so-and-so. She's like, pretend I'm Haru, because I don't think she actually knew who Haru was, but that was like the whole point for him to get out of his comfort zone and all that. So that shit was funny, but then when they started doing the whole Chimera thing, I was just like, what? Luckily, like, Beast Complex is pretty much what the creator wanted to do, is like just focus on character stories, like character arcs, because I think that's where she shines the most. And luckily that became a thing. Like, it wasn't like a permanent thing where it's like, oh, so all these characters are gonna have chimeras now. I wonder what Luis's is gonna be, or some shit like that. Like, I'm glad that it didn't become that. Yeah, I'm glad they dropped it too, because it was just not where it should go. And I'm glad, and I'm pretty sure the creator like knew that immediately, because you could just straight up tell that that's not what she wanted. That's why she just had it dropped like immediately. That's why they changed like the whole premise of that. So good thing, because that would have, like, I don't think, like, action wise it probably would not have been bad, but story wise, in terms of how Beastars was built up, I think it would have been, because that's not the charm of the series. But again, like, after reading Bakuman, you can kind of just see why that situation even happened in the first place. Because Beastars was very popular, and they're probably trying to get the author to, you know, expand on the audience at some point. And it just wasn't what it was going to be. Or what it was supposed to be. Yeah, it sucked for what happened with Juno, or where Juno's story goes. But at the same time, it's good that she grows as a person. I wish there was more, though, because, like, you can kind of tell that the comic was ending a little... Like, once the Chimera thing dropped, the story just kind of fast-tracked to the end. Because the stuff with Melon was just kind of like, okay, let's speed this up. And then they kind of just started inserting in random closure moments for all the characters. Like, you could tell that I think the author was just kind of done at that point. But luckily with Beast Complex, she can just, you know, make up some characters, give them interesting stories, and then cut it short. Like, she doesn't have to super focus on anything super critical anymore. I still need to read the second Beast Complex. I only have the first book. But again, like, if it was like a story that like, let's just say the Chimera thing was something she actually wanted to do. I'm sure she would have put in the effort to actually make it interesting, especially if it was something she actually wanted to put in. But just knowing how the comic was in the beginning and where it was until that point, you could just immediately tell that wasn't an idea that she was 100% on. Like, it was very obvious. Sure. Let me just make sure. Because one of the things you gotta do with a card game comic is you gotta pay attention to who has what card, how many points do they have, are they able to use the card. So I'm just backtracking, making sure it's like, alright, this is so-and-so's hand, they can do this. Because I can do that on Kiwi's next turn, but I'm trying to, like, speed up a bit of this, so that way we're not just sitting there going like, oh, okay, it's another turn of setup, another turn of setup. And then I also have to show that Eden is also in a tight spot. Okay, goes back. Yeah, okay. Just checking. Trying to optimize Kiwi's turn so that way we're not sitting forever waiting for her to set up whatever she's setting up. Thanks. Like, I know the whole card game thing isn't exactly what people are expecting from reading a Greenfield, which is why the fan service stuff will happen at the end. But there's a few reasons. One of the reasons why I'm doing the card game thing is, one, to show that I'm trying to be more serious with the card game stuff, because I do want to put out more new cards. Second, it's Kiwi, because she's a gamer type character, well, gambler character. And then third, there is a reason behind the cards that they're playing, because Eden makes it a point that Jam is an important person to her, which is why Jam's card is in her deck. And if you've noticed, none of the Creamfield girls are even in Kiwi's deck, which can hint to a couple of things, like, oh, maybe in this world, Kiwi getting cards doesn't have the same introduction as the world that Eden's from, because Eden's cards, you know, in the world that is established, getting the adapter that lets you play the card game, you get cards based on your personality and like your interests and stuff that makes you. Whereas the version that Kiwi's playing didn't come with any of that, so she just has standard cards. So in this version, Kiwi would just have the basic stuff, but if she was in the main timeline / universe, she would have gotten cards based on her sisters, her siblings. whereas Eden has Jam for some suspicious reason. And then the rest of her cards are either cards that are based on her or just cards that she threw together based on the people that she was observing. And then there's the whole both of them having orange eyes thing. Or an orange eye, I should say. They only have one. Jam-packed with surprises. Well, Kiwi's deck is also showing off a few iHack characters that haven't appeared yet. And then there's a clear focus that her deck is a food-based deck. But do not worry, I do know what the masses is into, so that will happen at the end of the comic. Debating on if that's gonna be for pledgers only or if I should just make it for everybody. It ultimately doesn't matter, because that part's gonna be just for fun. But story-wise, this is kind of where it needs to go. Plum's chapter won't be nearly as long. Insert booty joke. It's kind of funny because despite Jam having a big butt, she's technically not the biggest of her siblings on a technical point. But hers is like the most like noticeable because the rest of her is all skinny and stuff like that, so it stands out more compared to the other two. Because technically the biggest would be Pumpkin Pie. And then I would say Jam and then Peach. But Jam is like the more... Well, obviously I haven't shown off the other characters yet, but Jam's probably going to be the favorite. Oh yes, nothing wrong with a healthy fat butt. Yeah, comic-wise, currently Jam has the biggest butt that's been shown off, and I'm likely gonna keep it that way. Like, I'll show off that Peach and Pumpkin Pie have big rears, but that likely won't be like their sole focus. That way each character is more unique in that fashion. And then Jam technically hasn't had her own story yet, so I was debating on giving her one after Lemon Lime. Because Jam's has to do with going to a bar with Raz and having fun for once, because Jam doesn't technically have standard fun. Because most of the time she doesn't mingle with mortals. Biggest to smallest. Well, smallest would technically be, I want to say Grape, if you don't count her thorax. It'd probably be between Grape or Lemon Lime. It'd probably be Grape, Lemon Lime, and then Kiwi. Or maybe Blood Orange. Blood Orange and Kiwi or something like that. Get a butt chart. That will likely not happen, at least not for a while, unless I just have, like, take my time with it. Because you gotta remember, there's 22 of them. And I'm like, yeah, not right now. Maybe in the future, but I'm not gonna promise anything. But yeah, lots to do. And then I want to start getting iHat 2 underway in about a week or two. I was debating on whether or not I was going to do a Secrets comic, but I think I should get iHat 2 started. And then I can probably do his Secrets after Creamfield's done. Or Kiwi Story's done. Because Secrets is going to be in black and white. So it's not going to take up as much time. And then after Secrets is done, I'll probably get to work on Black Circus. I'm trying to rotate what comics get worked on, and then the least popular comics like Buckle will probably be worked on during like my spare time. Sorry about that. Yeah, there are plans for Black Circus. Just kind of like going down the list of comic priorities. And then, yeah, I do want to draw more fan art of characters that I'm interested in drawing, because Octavia is definitely one of them. Octavia and her mother. And then there's a bunch of male characters I want to draw as well, so. And then slowly trying to let friends and family know, it's like, hey, kind of busy doing stuff. Mostly friends at this point. Family pretty much gets it. It's like, yeah, we know. They know what I do. Because sometimes people want my attention. And I'm like, I gotta stay. I'm working on stuff. Which, honestly, I enjoy drawing more than hanging out. But trying to be not so antisocial. And it's not like I don't like hanging out with friends. It's just I would prefer to draw more often. Sorry, people were trying to set something up with me, and I'm like, okay. No, it's not bad. Yeah, I need to draw more pairing pictures of just characters interacting with each other. For fun. Like, I remember, I think it was last stream, people were saying I should draw Luna with Roxy and Plum. And or it was either Plum or Becky. I think it was Becky. Just being bitches. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Becky at this point. Now that I'm saying it, it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Becky. It's like, let's get all the asshole characters. Which is funny, because I don't really see Roxy as a asshole type of character. But I do see her as, like, trying to prove herself to the point where she could come off as being a bitch. Or at the very least, like, boasting that she's, like, the best, but you can clearly see her insecurities. Yeah. There's like a list of art sets I want to do, and pairings is one of them. I just gotta decide on what characters I'm gonna draw for it, because I definitely want to draw. Well, I was debating on if I was gonna do couples or just random characters hanging out. Both are good, because then you can just have fun with it. Like Mithra hanging out with Kazooie was a fun little fan thing that was showing up on YouTube when Pyra and Mithra got added to the game, because both of them are just total assholes. I'm curious on if any of Luna's details were changed. Because it's hard to tell what was carried over from the pilot in some instances. I kind of wish they kept in the angel thing for Has-Been Hotel. Not angel dust, but I mean like the actual angels that show up and kill the demons every year. Because I thought that was a neat little tidbit of lore. Well, I mean, like, they didn't really explain too much on how they change locations. And then it's a matter of, okay, does Luna still have the details that she had in the pilot, or are there differences? I mean, whether or not they change it is kind of up to them. And then, of course, depending on, I don't know, it's kind of interesting on whether or not they're trying to be a not safe for work series or not, because their Discord definitely isn't, because they're aware that they have like a younger audience there. So I'm like, okay, is your series for younger audience then? Which I doubt, but I don't know. Obviously, Discord and their series are two different things, but kind of makes you wonder where their headspace is when it comes to content. Yeah, Has-Been's gonna be interesting because a lot of the voice actors that make the characters fun are not gonna be returning. It was easier to accept that with Hell of a Boss, because there wasn't like too many characters that got the voice changes. I think it was only like Stolas and Millie. Although I really did like Millie's original voice a lot more, but her new voice grew on me pretty quickly. And then I did like Stolas' original voice, but the new one's not bad either. But yeah, with Has-Been, there's like a number of characters where I'm like, especially with Angel Dust. I think Angel Dust was like a voice where if they're gonna try to replace that, the replacement's gonna have to do a really good job making that work. Because we obviously don't know what the new actor will sound like, but Angel Dust kind of just had that charm. So if it's not close to how Angel Dust was portrayed, then I think that's gonna cause some issues. And unfortunately, it's just a matter of, they got picked up, so wherever that is taking them, they kind of have to bend over backwards for getting into that circle. Yeah, especially when they did the music video with Angel Dust, that was like already top tier. Yeah, like at least with Hell of a Boss, it doesn't feel like too much got changed from when they got picked up. And there wasn't like a lot of information that we knew of Hell of a Boss that got swapped over for whatever possible retcons that there were. Like, we didn't know a lot, so it just kind of worked out easier. Whereas with Has Been, there's been so much information about the series prior to even the pilot coming out, and then with all the voice actors that they had involved and, you know, making the characters come alive, it's just like a weird shift once they got picked up and now we know what we know. And that's not saying that, you know, the series is going to be awful because of these changes, but it definitely puts a bit of salt in everybody's mouth. So it'll probably still be good. Like, I can't really, at least not at the moment, because obviously we don't have any information. But currently I can't see it being bad because certain actors are changing, but at the same time, there are just certain voice actors that just made those characters work from the pilot that will be kind of hard to replace. Yeah, like, I hope Hell of a Boss stays the way it is, because it's just, like, the way it's formatted just works. Has Been is interesting because it's built as an adult series, but I don't know, like, obviously because it got picked up, it's like, okay, they're gonna try to make it work for a wider audience, because that's how companies work. But hopefully it doesn't lose its identity for it. So, just kind of have to wait and see what the first episode ends up being, and then go from there. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be, like, a bit of a backlash once they hear, like, the new voice actors, if they're not, like, close to how they were portrayed in the pilot. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be something like that going on. But hopefully, like, the actual story and content doesn't get lost in translation. Yeah, like, honestly, I think Hell of a Boss works better as an well, saying YouTube exclusive is a bit of a, has a bit of an asterisk to it, because it's like, you know, what type of content can they put on YouTube is up in the air, because sometimes certain people can put certain things that shouldn't probably maybe not be on YouTube, and they're still there to this day for some reason. And then other times you get something even less raunchy or less risque, and for whatever reason those get marked or flagged or whatever. So maybe someday there will be a YouTube type, I mean, not like Pornhub necessarily, but like just a YouTube that's more for that kind of content, for like more darker animation or risque animation. Not necessarily for porn or whatever, but just like, you know, able to do that kind of content, the more violent or risque content without having to get a slap from up above. I don't know. I think it's weird because a lot of companies keep getting all weary, like, oh, we want more family-friendly content. And I'm just like, you guys are aware that the risque content makes you the money you want, as well as makes you known for what you're known for. Looking at freaking OnlyFans, because they were the ones trying to do that. And most of the time, they likely don't even care. It's mostly just banks that get all iffy about it. It's like, oh, we want family-friendly content. And I'm like, guys, you know damn well the companies behind you are doing shady, risque shit, whatever, all the time. And I don't know why they're trying to pretend that nobody looks at this type of stuff. It's really dumb. They really need to stop pretending that people don't look at this kind of content. And in half the time, certain companies take off because of that kind of content, so I don't know why they're pretending that it didn't make them get them where they are. I don't know. I think everyone's just trying to live a lie that they don't want to admit. Like, sometimes characters get popular way after the fact because of this kind of content. And then companies become aware of it and then they take advantage of it. But then once they make the money they want to make, they pretend that, oh, we don't support that. And I'm like, bullshit. That's basically what Disney is. Like, Disney makes interesting characters and always hints at something, but then will do just enough where it's like, oh, we don't do that. They always do that. It's like, oh, we didn't know that furries would be into Judy and Nick like that. And it's like you know damn well they were into that. It's like, you guys did not forget Robin Hood. Like, even the creators are like, oh yeah, we were inspired by Robin Hood, so we made Zootopia like this. Yeah, investors are usually the ones that screw around with where the money's at, which is weird, because you'd think by now investors would just be like, okay, why don't we just have a separate branch that focuses on not safe for work content, so that way we can make the money from that, and that way if parents or angry moms, whatever, get all bitchy about, oh, I can't believe you guys are supporting blah 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 blah, they can just be like, oh, that's a different branch, that's not us. Because that was literally what Disney used Touchstone for. Because whenever they were going to make content that they weren't sure family audiences would be into, they would always use it under Touchstone. That's how Pirates of the Caribbean started. Because it was a Touchstone movie first. And when it got popular, they said, oh, this is Disney. Like, it's not a goddamn... It's not even a secret. Like, people... I mean, I'm sure there's some people that don't know this, but yeah, like, most people know that Touchstone is a Disney company. And it's always funny whenever you tell somebody that, and they're like, oh, really? Like, yeah. like, Disney and other companies aren't stupid. They know adult content makes them money. They just have to pretend that they don't support it. So that way they don't get in trouble with angry parents and stuff like that. Or people trying to boycott them for stupid reasons. Because for some reason everyone wants to pretend that everyone's a special or a pure snowflake and doesn't look at that stuff. Oh yeah, like the whole Anka thing with Animal Crossing recently. It's like, oh, that got super fucking popular. And the funniest part is, like, it's not like fans have not drawn Anka in risque situations before. It's just that one, for whatever reason, took off. And then Nintendo was like, yeah, stop. Stop, don't do that with Anka. And at the same time, Anka got super fucking popular because of that video. Even though she was already popular, so it wasn't even like anything really changed. It was just people became aware of that video. And Nintendo was like, yeah. Yep. I still laughed that Zone did that. Zone does good stuff. That's why they had Zone work on Skullgirls. But yeah, like, and that happens with multiple characters, like what was the Esurance Girl? Like, she got really popular when people started drawing risque versions of her, and so the company just disowned her. They're like, yeah, we don't use the Esurance Girl anymore. Or what was her name? Was it a Sony character, or was it like a... I forget her name. It was like a recent Sony like digital character, like not VTubing necessarily, but like they made like a 3D character. I want to say it was Sony. I'll have to check on it. But like, she got immediately disowned by the company. Yeah, Samsung. There you go. Yeah, the Samsung girl got disowned, and the funniest thing with Bowsette, it's like Bowsette is a completely like just fans combining things together, and then it got popular. And Nintendo wanted to capitalize on that, but they had to keep their image, so that's why they made up the small bit of lore saying that the Super Crown only works on Toadette for some freaking reason. But like nobody bought that. They're like, yeah, whatever. So they just kept doing Bowsette. And like even popular manga artists drew Bowsette, so that was like a thing. And the funniest part about that was Bowsette was technically in Mario Odyssey as a concept art. Like they had concept art of what if Bowser took over Peach's body and made her all evil or something like that. And that was going to be a thing, but then they scrapped it. So it wasn't even like an idea that they didn't have. They just didn't use it. So the funniest part is like, Nintendo would have been super cool with it, but they just had to keep their image. And it's not like Nintendo really stopped anybody from drawing Bowsette or anything like that. They just had to like cover their ass on the lore. Yeah, it kind of sucks whenever companies kind of have to backtrack on popular things, especially if that popular thing is risque, because I have to save that for later, because they have to keep their image, which is why I would rather companies just use like a shell company. Just be like, okay, we're gonna buy this company or make up a new company, make it the risque version of themselves, and then proceed from there. And then if people find out, then people find out. But as long as they're doing it under the guise of their alternate company, then there shouldn't be any issues. Like, they just need to take advantage of the audience that they have, and just move on from there. Like, it makes no sense to leave that potential sitting there just because they want to be known as a certain type of company. And granted, it does make sense for some people to only want to be known for one particular thing, but at the same time, you'd be stupid to not take advantage of stuff like that. Like, Crystal from Star Fox only had, like, 2 games. And she's still popular. Well, 3 games, I think. Yeah, because Assault, Armada, and Dinosaur Planet. Hell, even her beta version is popular. Before the whole Star Fox thing got added. Like, come on. Like, yeah, like, that's why a lot of companies don't really do anything whenever their characters are used in a risque manner. They just have to step in after a certain point. Because regardless of whether or not their characters get used in a risque manner, they do still have to step in when their characters get used a little bit too well or too often, because if they don't, they technically would lose the copyright. Because if like, and this ties into the whole like fans making fan games of like Pokemon and Metroid and stuff like that. If fans make games or content where it becomes difficult telling the difference between whether or not the main company made them, or they're getting support and stuff like that, then they will lose their copyright, and if those characters become public domain, and that's just like a legal thing. So it's not necessarily that companies are trying to be assholes and cease and desist everybody. Is that, and this is weird because I feel like not a lot of people know this, but they have to step in after a certain point, because then they'll lose their characters, or they'll lose the IP, because that's how that works. because that's what was happening. That's what kind of happened with when they were making the My Little Pony fighting game. The fans were, and after a while, Hasbro had to step in and be like, "Hey, we gotta cease and desist this," because it was looking like an official fighting game. Which honestly, Hasbro should have just leaned in on and hired the main 6 crew that were making the game, because people would have been totally for it. Because hello, welcome. But because My Little Pony was becoming, I think it was still early, so this is probably why, because I think this was like back in 2012. But because My Little Pony was still early and they weren't sure on the whole letting their characters be in fights thing, because that happens like a little bit later in the seasons where their characters became more active in terms of fighting. But if they had leaned in on that, it would have been totally fine. I don't think fans would have had a problem with pony characters beating the shit out of each other. But luckily, that's when the creator of My Little Pony, or the Gen 4 version, Lauren Faust, she was like, she appreciated all the hard work that they did, and so that's why Them's Fighting Herds got made, because she helped them out and make that game. So technically, they got to still make the pony game, but it just had to be in a different appearance. And the same thing could have went for whenever fans make Nintendo games and stuff like that. Nintendo should just lean in on that and just hire the fans, like, let them do it. Let them make the games, but just make it official. And if the games are a little bit too risque or something, then just make another company under the let Nintendo make another company and just lean on it and do it. Like, I don't know. I feel companies want to, but they're just too much, not necessarily cowards, but they just want to save their image too much, which doesn't help whenever they get involved in controversies, but it is what it is. They won't. It's just a matter of if it gets too popular, or if it's too okay. Basically, if your content is super easy to find just by typing it in on Google, then that's when companies will likely go after you. So you have to mark your content under a different tag or a different name. So, like, let's just say I was going to draw a bunch of Pokemon stuff. I would just have to call it something else. Like, don't call it directly Pokemon, necessarily. But, just call it, like, Pocket Beauties or whatever simple name just to get the point across, but not make it a full alarm, like, oh, this is Pokemon. And then go from there. Because the moment a company types in their stuff and sees anything risque that's like at the top of the page, like if it comes up immediately, then you're most likely going to be targeted. That's kind of how that works. Because the last thing they need is a parent typing in Pikachu and then seeing Pikachu get a full load in his face as the first image that comes up. Even if it's not in not safe for work mode that Google has. Like, even if somehow that's not the case, if it comes up first or in like the top page at all, then most likely it's going to get hit. And that was probably the case with like Metroid when the fan game was being made, and they got the cease and desist because everyone's talking about it. And that's like another thing. If you're going to make a fan game of anything, never fucking talk about it at all. And don't put out like videos and stuff saying, oh, this is what we're doing and here's the demo of it or something like that. Just make the game. If you're gonna make a demo, okay, fine, sure, whatever, but just put it out there. Don't like tease it for months and months and months, because then you're just gonna give Nintendo or any other company enough time to see your content getting popular and then cease and desist it because you made the mistake of letting them know. Because you gotta be, you have to be wise about that at that point. That's why if you're gonna make a fan game, either let it be your own IP or don't say anything until it's as far as you want it to go, and then just drop it. Just put it out there, let as many people as they can grab it, and then if it does get cease and desist, well, 100 plus people already downloaded it, so it's out there in the wild. But the moment you start teasing it and it starts getting popular, then that's where you screwed up. Because at that point, you were just better off making your own IP. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking this way because I'm aware of how all this works, and there's just not enough people that get it. Actually, let's change some of this. Yeah. Like, the law already needs to be updated for a multitude of things. And the funniest part is when the law is updated, people still think the law is another way, and they don't do their research, or they will do their research, but they'll only spot, like, the first thing that comes up and assume that that's the law, and not realize that that was, like, an outdated version of it. Such as, you know, characters being drawn risque. Because people still think, oh, you can't draw certain characters in a certain way, and I'm like, yeah, you can. As long as it's not A, B, or C, or whatever the hell the case may be. It's just people don't do their research properly. Well, a lawyer is going to be needed when there's like a gray area, because there's always going to be a gray area to something, especially if it hasn't been touched on before. Then you have to go through the mental gymnastics of figuring out whether or not it's legal or not legal, or something in between where, okay, it's one or the other, but this is a special case, so we're either gonna dismiss it or do a small penalty when it could have been a major one. So it kind of depends on the situation. But ultimately, laws do need to be updated, because a lot of them were written at a time where they weren't as abused as they are now. I mean, they're always going to be abused to a degree, but it's obviously gotten more complicated as time passes and technology changes and more gray areas come about. Sweetheart, I am not getting your eyes right. Let's fix this. Let's do it this way. Yeah, there's just a lot of business stuff that I've slowly become aware of, either because I listen in on people who are in the industry or just see it explained fairly well to get it. And I guess it's just not common enough for other people. And every once in a while I'll point it out, but I also come to the conclusion that it's just not well known. So we're kind of just stuck with people being unaware of how certain things work. Oh yes. That tends to happen at times, drawing a certain way and you get one part right and then the rest gets all shitty and you're just like, God damn it. There have been times where I like drew something like really, really, really cool, but then the rest of it looked like shit. And I was like, man, but I really like this part. And sometimes I'll try to salvage it by like just cutting away the parts that I like and then changing the rest. And then other times I'm just like, and just scrap it. Like, there have been times where I drew like a whole picture of something, like not rendered, but just like the light art. And then I'll look at it and be like, this looks shitty, and just erase the whole thing. And it's like, well, that was like 1 or 2 hours lost. Like, it happens. It's just a matter of not being discouraged and, continuing on. Yeah, I haven't drawn traditional in a while now. Most of my stuff just ends up digital nowadays. But I mean, I'm still hand drawing everything, so it's not really that different. Just now I have the ability to erase if something doesn't work. Which, technically that exists in traditional, but just harder to constantly do if necessary. Don't normally put in hair like this, but we're making some bold decisions today. Yeah, digital saves on a hell of a lot of paper. It used to be that before I got a drawing tablet, I would just draw traditionally and then scan it in and do all the editing and stuff. And pretty much anytime people ask me what I want for my Christmas or birthdays, I would just say, give me paper. So I just get paper every year. But now that I got the tablet, I kind of took away the one thing people could get me. So now I just ask for nothing. They still get me stuff, but that was like their one thing, and now it's like, well, he doesn't use that anymore. So it's like we had one thing, yeah, and now I don't need paper. Now I have infinite paper. And infinite colors, because I used to go and buy Crayola color pencils, a 50-pack for like $7, and that was what I used to color. I should do traditional stuff just for the hell of it. Yeah, and I would draw in pen, because I was crazy and didn't draw in pencil. And if I messed up somehow, I would just make the mistake into the drawing. Much better. Okay. Some details in her hair. And then the pen nubs I'm using, I haven't, or at least for the tablet pen, I haven't really had to go through because I don't draw like ridiculously hard on the screen or anything like that. Because I think I've been using the same one for like over 2 years now. Like, they've seen that you get like different ones, and I'm just like, damn. This is a character named Vanilla Cream. And she was a character I adopted from the artist Saucy. And the storyline I had intended for her also has to do with food stuff, so I was like, why not just use her in the card game too, since might as well get all the food characters into Kiwi's deck. No, not Saucy Secrets. It's another artist named Saucy. Let me grab their page and just post it in the chat. There they are. Copy. And I'm gonna credit them when I post this page publicly, but I'll also do it when I post it on Patreon. Because this was a character that they sold. And I had the bad habit of adopting a lot of characters for a little bit because I just don't like the idea of characters with a lot of potential just being wasted. And I understand I can't do that for everyone, so I grabbed the ones that I could and then said, okay, no more adoptables. As much as I would love to adopt more, I can't keep doing that. Plus, I have my own characters to worry about, so I can't do that forever. But I grabbed the ones I thought had the best potential. So, yay me. And she kinda chubby. Yeah, I got way too many characters at this point. I got adoptables and I got my own characters, so I think I'm good on the character front. I got more characters than I could possibly need. Well, that's probably not true, because the moment I use them all, then I will need more for any other stories that I might want to do. But we'll get there when we get there. And Vanilla Cream wasn't even on that boat picture that I drew with all the adoptables that I got. Nope, she came later. Because the ones from the boat were from I believe 2020, when Saucy was doing like a October adoptables thing. I think it was called Adoptober. Yeah, cheeky name. and I saw the character list for that, and I was like, well, it looks like there's some characters I'm gonna be cherry picking, which I did. And then he did the same thing for last year, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be the last time I do this. And if Becky was real, she'd be like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. Or I would have been like, but look at it, look at the character, I don't want this to go to waste. And she'd be like, God, I hate you. There we go. No, it's the last time. I made it a point to not do anymore. As much, and trust me, I've seen other adoptables where I'm just like, but I'm like, no, I have enough, along with my own. And I should probably look at this. I think we're good. I just gotta do it this way. There we go. Then I started watching, I think it was called, god dang it, what is it called? I think it's called My Dress Up Darling. I started watching that, and I was like, well, I could see where the appeal of this was from, because basically a guy gets his own life-size doll. And he's socially awkward because he didn't interact with people because he was trying to be a doll designer. And it's already making me want to read the manga. And then apparently, the creator made like an official doujinshi of it, and then there was like a scene where the main characters watching like a end game or a H game to order to understand the design of one of the characters that he's trying to do for the main design for the main character. And so apparently they're gonna make an actual bonus anime of what he's watching for like the DVD version of the series. So I was like, oh god, man, they just see, that's a company that's not afraid. They're just like, you know what, everyone's into this, let's just go fucking full dive in, like let's just do it. Like, no rubber, just raw. Just go all the way in. Yeah. And I'm already into it. I'm like, yep, this is my thing. Yes, anime within the anime. And it's not like the first time anyone's done that, but still, it's like, I'm glad they just committed to it. They're like, you know what, let's do it. People already like it, fuck it. Yeah, exactly. Dahak was the first thing I thought of. By the way, has anyone seen Tiny Marcy? Yeah, people like Baby Marcy. Three layers deep. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I was like, I heard about it, and I was like, you know what, I'll give that one a shot. Watched the first episode, and I was like, yep, it's good. And then the animation's really nice too. Do that. Probably needs to be a little bit more this way. Have her hands out. Yeah, like some of the questions I try to pick something that's a little interesting, like as interesting as I can make it, and then of course I'll pick the weight related ones, the weight gain related ones, because I know people want me to answer those too. But I try to mix it up so that way I'm not answering the same things over and over. Because after a while, it's just more of like, oh, what have these characters thought of sumo wrestling? I'm just like, I mean, there's no real reason for them to think that. And I could answer if it's like yes or no, and it wouldn't really matter, because whether or not it's canon is up to me. But you know, there's only so many times I can have the characters say the exact same answer over and over when it comes to a single subject. So I've tried to pick other questions, and then if there's a point where none of the questions are any good, then I'll probably just toss in a random question to ask the characters, and you know, just kind of lore dump. But overall, it pretty much just depends on what the questions are. The only reason why I haven't drawn the horny gel one is because that kinda ties into Jam's story just a little bit, so mostly saving it for that. I mean, I can always just make up something to answer the question with that isn't tied to her story, but I figured it'd be better to just save it for that situation. Let's put this more upwards. Yeah, I need to lore dump more. Like, there's still a ton of stuff I haven't explained yet. Like, how the characters live in their world and stuff like that. Because you gotta remember, their world has freaking demons and angels and gods and other bizarre shit going on. But when you look at, like, Marcy's story, it just seems like everything's normal. And very vaguely do I hint at the other stuff in the background. Because, like, there'll be, like, certain details in the backgrounds where it's just kind of like, oh, I wonder why this is here. And either I've answered it in, like, a Astacast or a lore dump, or it's just, like, super vague and it's just there until it gets used. Yeah, like, technically Creamfield in general is already horny jail. Like, they're in horny jail already. Pull this out. Like, they're already in horny jail, technically. Hand would be like this. Oh, the character off to the side with the burger, that is Nadine. She is another weight gain related character that I'm holding on to. Because I'm trying not to overuse the theme. Yeah, there's just so many freaking characters that I want to use, and I gotta wait. And then it's just a matter of it's pretty much a matter of what stories do I want out and about and done. Nadine is half snake, half mouse. But yeah, like there's a lot of stories I want to do, but then I'm also trying not to ignore other series that I have like Buckle and World Gates. But I understand where my current appeal is. So, trying to update the older comics when I can, but maintain the new one. Because eventually, I had Creamfield and Black Circus will get to their conclusions. And then I-Hat will still continue as more of a mini-series where you just have short stories. And then Creamfield technically has a sequel, but I'll have to hold on that until it gets there. But that one is... how long would that one be? Probably as long as the main I-Hat stories that I have in mind. I mean, we'll figure that out when we get there. But I am trying to speed up a little bit of Creamfield when I get to that point. Because I want to show off the main ones and then start getting closer to the main plot. Which originally didn't have one. It was just going to be a whatever series. But then I was like, no, I can do more with it. And so I did. Alternate universe child. Oh yeah, that'd be funny. I should just throw her in at some point as like a joke, and just have one of them make a like baby comment. It's like, oh my god, that's what ours would look like. That would be kind of cute. Or just use it for like a random Astacast situation where it's like, oh, what would your babies look like? And then just have Nadine there. And Nadine's like, what? Let's do it this way. I'm debating on... Nah, I'm not gonna have Vanilla Cream be Nadine's roommate. Vanilla Cream can do her own thing. I will either use a different character or make one up for Nadine's situation. Whichever comes first. Okay, did that. There we go. Okay, so got all that. Oh, wow, it's already almost 3. Yeah, it's a pretty tame dress. Not too complicated. But you know, gotta keep in all the plumpness. Okay, let's not forget her glasses. Actually, I can add in the glasses later. That way I can just make it better. Alright, where's her big fluffy tail? She got big floof. Yes, it is 3 o'clock. And I'll probably have Nadine there. And then the empty panel next to them is supposed to be Vanilla Cream's card. But I gotta draw her official art first. But I think I'm gonna call it after I'm done drawing Nadine in this panel. And then I'm gonna do another stream on Friday. This page will probably be done before then, but I'll probably make Friday a more fun day, so I'll probably be drawing fan art of something. Probably weight gain this time around since I drew Roxy last time in just standard. So we'll probably get crazy and just draw something ridiculous. Yeah, currently planning out how I'm gonna be tackling this year. Trying to get through all of the, not exactly interference, but just, you know, trying to keep the peace with certain people, but I gotta start being more assertive when it comes to how my time is used. And I know I keep saying that, so that just means I really need to do it. Just step at me like, hey, I gotta do this. Or not so much gotta do this, but just I want to do this more than using my time elsewhere. And then I want to get back into trying to do 3D stuff, so I'm looking into using Blender. Like, I've done 3D stuff before, but nothing noteworthy. So I'm going to be looking at tutorials for that. And if I get really decent at it, then I don't know, start posting risque stuff. Try to animate it or something. And what better to practice with than Becky, so she will be the first character I attempt to model once I learn everything I need to know. And if there's anything I've seen of Blender is that they like to have their jiggle physics. So that'll be a fun time. I also almost made Nadine a dragon at one point, because when I drew her, she had horns for a little bit. And I was like, no, I got enough dragons. Hell, I still need to do the lore about the dragon god character and how he screws around with his species just so he can mess with them and do whatever he wants with them. Let's see. Hopefully by the next page for this, we should start giving Marcy food cards. And see where that magical situation takes us. I don't know, Big Fat Marcy taking out Jam, or Eden Fig's Jam card or something. I mean, I have multiple ideas on where to go with it. There's definitely another character I want to tease, so I'll probably involve that character when the time comes. But this comic's already getting close to its end. It's gonna be roughly 50 or so pages, and we're already on 39. Massive Marcy. Can always do a side comic where Skylar just doesn't stop with Marcy's weight gain. See where that where that timeline takes us. Although technically it's not that different from Pepper. So I'll probably just save that idea for, well, save it for Pepper, because it's literally the same. Well, not the same, but it might as well be the same thing. Like, sometimes I hold off on certain ideas because I already have it for another character, and I don't want to waste it. Because, like, if I use the idea and then I try doing it again for another character, then it's kind of just a little more of the same with a slight difference in terms of, like, a character's backstory. But, like, the initial gimmick is like, okay, it's like what you did with this character, but now it takes place here and it's with this character who's, I don't know, gay or something. And there's, like, not much of a difference after that. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it because, you know, that's going to happen regardless. Like, whether it's Marcy or another character, it's pretty much going to be the same thing, different take, so I guess I'm just overthinking it. Because it's not like, oh, once you draw the weight gain character once, you can never do it again with another character. Because if that was the case, then Creamfield has a problem. I guess I would just prefer to save the extra ideas for newer characters, so that way I'm not just using Marcy or other characters over and over. Which makes sense, because, you know, you want to give other characters the spotlight. Let's give her bigger boobs. How tall did I make you? Or did I give you a height? No, you don't have a height yet. I can make her fairly tall. Yeah, lots to do. Yeah, it's more like I get, like, I don't have a problem doing more weight gain stories, but I don't want to keep using the same characters over and over. Or making like alternate universe versions of them all the time, because I could just use those ideas for other characters. So like, even though Fat Blake is a thing, she was more of a special case because of the whole Blake winning a poll like by a landslide. So instead of just, you know, taking the poll results and be like, well, Blake won this like ridiculously high, I decided to just be like, okay, here's a special comic with Blake in like an alternate universe, and then give the runner-up of that poll the artwork that I was going to make for it, and then that's how Fat Blake became a thing. Because like, Fat Blake was already used in a version of Blake that was was used in a commission before that, but there was like nothing extra to it. It was pretty much just I-Hats Blake, but just fat. And that was kind of it, really. But the alternate universe one had more of a backstory, or had a different backstory. But whether or not I return to her universe is up in the air, because like, I can always return to it and just, you know, expand on whatever I had for the special. But at the moment, I have no plans to use her again, at least for now, because any idea I come up with her, I can use for characters that already have her idea in a certain way. And there really isn't too much to really go through. Like, there's no super big conflict, unless I just go off of her relationship with Marcy in that universe. Let's round this out more. Oh, that's Nadine that I'm drawing. She's a bit of a foodie, especially at her favorite fast food restaurant. And almost done. And we're gonna call it for today. And then Friday I'm gonna stream again. Try to start streaming more often. And I was also thinking of doing like short clip skits, like the ones where people just take audio and then animate something to it. I was thinking of doing that with some characters for fun. Like just a few seconds, nothing like stupidly long. Yeah, I definitely want to do the skit of a guy looking after a kid and he doesn't know what to do, so he offers him a beer, and I'm just like, okay, that's definitely something Becky would do, because she doesn't like kids, so she'd be like, you want a beer? And to just have her sister there going like, he's this age. He's like, I don't know. What do you want me to do with him? I love that skit. That skit that I think that was the skit that made me want to do it. So I'm definitely gonna try to throw something together. But I want to try to find that audio that's not broken, because it kind of cuts off just a little too early for my taste. So I want to try to find the original audio and make it work better. I'm sure I can find it, I just gotta put the time into it. Make her go down a little bit here. And don't forget the diamonds. And we're pretty much done for now. So yeah, I will be working more on this tonight. I just gotta do the artwork for Vanilla Cream, because she doesn't have a official artwork, because I want to use it for her card. So when I do that, then I can finish up the rest of this. And yeah, that'll be pretty much the page that'll be coming out either tonight or tomorrow morning. But yeah, thank you for coming, and I will be streaming again on Friday. So I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for coming again. Yeah, just I'm gonna try to be more out there more and to stream more and all that. So yeah, if you guys have a good day, thank you for coming, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye. No problem. Thank you for coming. Where's this? There.